Episode 210. Are these comics going to make good film and television shows? We have Aquaman number 2 and Magick number 2. It's a 2 all the way around. Let's talk about it right now. Welcome back to the channel, everyone. Thank you so much for spending time with me as we rant about movies, comic books, and television shows, as well as the occasional board game. I'm your host, Frank Zanca. I'm an award-winning screenwriter, novelist, and comic book writer, as well as a filmmaker. And yeah, I'm going to be working on a screenplay right now that I just got hired to do. It's actually lots of fun. I'm kind of deep into the treatment right now, so excited about that. And then it looks like I'm going to be writing a new book about World War II. I did one of those already, so this will be my second. But yeah, remember to give me a like, give me a thumbs up if you can. If you can't, subscribe. It's free. Why not? Ring that bell. Ding, ding. And on top of that, remember too that the Green Hornet 90th anniversary anthology, the hardcover novel with stories by Timothy Zahn, who created the Thrawn for Star Wars, as well as Kevin J. Anderson, who wrote for Dune, among a pile of others. Bill Willingham, cover art by Matt Wagner, interior art, which we're about to unlock. We're like $700 from unlocking the interior art by Dennis Calero of Marvel. Just a pile of just amazing people involved in this, celebrating this anniversary. Anyway, go to greenhornetnoir.com or click the link in the description below and jump in on it now. We are fully funded. It is going to happen. So now we just got to unlock some free stuff. So get in now while you can. All right, let's jump into Aquaman. So Aquaman is written by my friend Jeremy Adams, but that does not stop me from talking shit. In fact, we just saw each other at MegaCon. And he's got 2 books out this week. The first is Aquaman, and the second is the Green Lantern Corps. Although other people are saying that he didn't really write most of that. I don't know one way or another, and I don't think they do either. But I was watching Wes at Thinking Critical and Drew. Of course, I know both of them. In fact, I just met Drew for the first time over at MegaCon as well. But I am a huge Aquaman fan. If you're new to the channel, I've talked about this many times. Aquaman is one of my favorite characters, which is unusual because he's nobody's favorite character. But he's mine. I grew up with him on the Seahorse, with the Super Friends and all that stuff, and I love Aquaman and I love Mera. And I know a lot of people are, the Lois and Clark are the power couple in the DC universe, even maybe in comics in general. And I think it's Aquaman and Mera. I think those are the power couple. You can't even count Spider-Man and Mary Jane because they're not even together most of the time. But Aquaman and Mera are always together. They are the power couple. And I kind of missed that. Of course, we didn't have an Aquaman comic for some time now. And when I heard that Jeremy was going to be writing it, I was like, yes, we're finally going to have a competent person here. However, it looks like he's putting his own spin on it with that absolute power thing. He has Mera's powers now. I'm not really happy about that because that's always what made Aquaman and Mera different. Was that she had the aquakinesis and he was able to communicate with fish. And now he can do both and she can do nothing. So hopefully that changes, just like Lois is, Superwoman right now. But these are some of my favorite books. This is my prized possessions here. This is all the Paul Levitz, all the original Aquaman stories with the death of Arthur, which was originally supposed to happen in the movie. Of course, everything changed when Amber Heard, screwed herself over with that lawsuit, which I'm really pissed about her for because she should never have done that because then now they cut her out completely of Aquaman. You could tell in the movie that she was cut out. And I am not a fan of Momoa at all, but I'm a fan of Aquaman, and I like Atlantis and stuff like that. Of course, Jeff Johns' Rebirth, which I don't have with me right now, but is also Dan Abnett, also in Rebirth. This was back, as far as I'm concerned, to the original look and feel of Aquaman. And, because Peter David cut his hand off and stuff like that. I hated all that and gave him the beard. But Rebirth was all back to how Aquaman was. Of course, we still have the beard in here. In fact, I keep asking Jeremy if they're going to cut the beard off, but now I really don't care, because as we get into this story, I see that he's just kind of creating his own Aquaman. There's really no identification. This does not feel like Aquaman at all. And as he keeps telling the story, he feels like Aquaman less and less and less, to the point where I'm not sure if I'm going to continue this. But meanwhile, Wes and Drew got this was the best thing of the week, and then even one of the guys on the Thinking Critical Aficionados this morning said, "Oh, I love that he's a badass." There's a way to make him a badass and still make him Aquaman, and it's just, and as we go through this, so in the last one I was kind of okay with most of it, even though the power swap thing I hate, but at least he went and went to ask the Justice League for help, and then of course went and took off on his own like he would normally do anyway. He is headstrong for sure, and he's also strategic, so he kind of knows what he's walking into for the most part. But anyway, he ends up going through this gate because all of Atlantis is gone, and I've talked about this way too much already. It's like 7 minutes in already, so I'm going to have to rush through this, but he ends up going through the gate and ends up coming through this ground, so, which I think is kind of strange, but he's obviously in this other world, and I'm not a fan of that piece of art right there. He looks way too thin around the waist there. But there's the gate, and as he's looking up at the gate, these creatures come at him, and he ends up taking the moisture out of the ground, and because it's mud, and blinding them with the mud. Whatever. Then he grabs the long tongue. Oops, I forgot to bring my thing. He grabs the long tongue and, whips the guy around, or the lizard creature around, and he leaves one kind of conscious to take them to their queen. So that's what they do. He goes to the queen, and her name is Jen. Well, her name is Jen. Okay. But anyway, so she's like, "Oh, the blue." So she's almost like, Lord of the Rings, Golem type of thing. But she ends up capturing him, which also I'm like, really? He just walked into a trap like that without having any contingencies whatsoever? I find that hard to believe. But anyway, she drops him down into the thing, but she wants his blood because she needs water, and there's like no water on this planet, I guess. So she has to take blood and then bathe in it, so it's kind of like a vampire type of thing. But anyway, he ends up meeting another captive there who's obviously been there for a little while, and I think he's also Atlantean. And he says, "I can feel the power in you, and you need to summon it so that you can break free." And I guess the other guy's too weak to do it, or doesn't have the amount of ability to do what Arthur can do, but Arthur is just learning this ability himself, so that's why I'm kind of like, really? But anyway, he gets the guy out, and then he goes, they're reporting to her, saying they're apologizing for failing, and she's like, "What is that?" And there's a rumble, and he comes up with the mud and the blood and whatever else. And he says, "Jenny Green, whatever, Green Teeth, it's time to die." And there was somebody praising that line, but that is something he would never say. He would never yell out, "It's time to die." that's just not. It's not most of the DC characters. Even though I guess she's possessed and he's referring to whatever is inside of her, but it's not anything he would ever say. That's like Superman or Batman saying that, or even Wonder Woman. They would never say that. So that put me off completely. But anyway, the other guy ends up coming up out of the ground, and I guess he drowns her with his blood or whatever. I don't know. And then he rips the entity asunder after it's out of her, and it sinks into the ground or whatever it does. And you are destroyed. It doesn't feel like Aquaman. And they're like, well, this is the prophecy. The dark tide or whatever it is. I know a lot of people are really liking this, but to me it just doesn't feel right. So I normally get, especially my favorite character, I'll probably end up getting it through issue 5, and then I might be dropping it. So, which is bad. It's bad because dropping my favorite character and one of my favorite writers, and he's just taking too many liberties, man. Too many liberties. And I know he's trying to make it because Aquaman doesn't really sell, so he's trying to alter it to sell, but it just doesn't feel like him. It feels too Conan. He's trying to make Conan out of him, and that's not him. It's not him. All right, so let's jump into Magick. So Magick is having a little problem here. So I guess there's something that's killing mutants, and there's like 5 seals keeping it in place, and she actually destroyed one of the seals. So if it gets free, I guess it's bad. It's bad if it gets free. So there was a woman that was keeping it, an old woman that was keeping it, this creature or whatever, keeping it, held, and her grandson is now takes over the Magick, keeping it in place. But anyway, the kid is trying to prove himself and going through his grandmother's notes, and they're in a cafe, etc. And she is thinking, about him and about Darkchild and trying to keep things at bay. And then this woman who's, I guess, the waitress, and just first of all, they're in Paris, I think. They haphazardly go to Paris so that they can think. Of course, she portals there. But I think she just haphazardly, Tokyo, Japan. They're in Tokyo, Japan. That was something she just picked, right, for no reason. And then this girl who's the waitress just says, hey, do you want to go to a party? So it's already very coincidental that they're in Tokyo by accident, by random, and then they're invited to a party, and at this party, whatever this club, they end up finding the demon there. How coincidental is that? And it's his ex-girlfriend or something like that, possessed, and she's playing guitar, and Magick changes and goes to attack her, and she has some kind of a ability to freeze her in place, and she turns into Darkchild to be able to free herself, I guess. And I thought the last issue was pretty good. This one is not as good, especially when you factor in the fact that there's, everything's so coincidental. But anyway, she ends up freeing herself, and she attacks the demon girl, who's playing a guitar. Which I guess is, trying to knock out some of the symbols that are holding them holding the creature in place. And the artwork is generally good. But this one is kind of all over the place. She's the writer here, Freya Allen or whatever, Ashley Allen, kind of lost her way in the plot. But anyway, we have the action scene continuing on. It's all about the girl with the guitar, and she shatters her basically. And I don't know where they're going with it. This is a miniseries. Anyway, she falls through this hole, and she ends up in front of the throne room of Liminal, which is the thing that's being held by all the seals. Or not those kind of seals. Anyway, this one was not as good, so I'm going to withhold to see if it would even be a good film or television show, because it's kind of, again, well, it kind of lost its way. And Aquaman, we're not going to see Aquaman in a movie or television show for quite a long time. There's no plans on bringing him back, and I don't think this version of Aquaman would even do well on screen anyway. All right, well, that's it from me. Thank you guys so much for watching. I greatly appreciate it. Remember to give me a like, give me a subscribe if you can, ring that bell, ding, ding. And remember, too, that we have the Green Hornet anthology hardcover with Timothy Zahn, Kevin J. Anderson, Bill Willingham, cover art by Matt Wagner, interior art, which we're about to unlock in just $700. So definitely jump in there. By Dennis Calero. So anyway, that's it for me. Have a great week. I really appreciate you watching. I'll see you in the next episode.